What is going on, traders? In this video, we're going to go over key levels and how I go about marking support and resistance. Before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So we're just going to get straight into it. So the main issue I see a lot of retail traders have is that, one, they overthink, and two, they are looking at too many time frames when it comes to marking support and resistance, right? And what I mean by that is that a lot of you will just be on the most random time frames. You'll be looking at like 6 time frames, right? You'll be on a 5-minute time frame marking levels. You'll be on a 15-minute time frame marking key levels, right? You'll be on a 30-minute. You'll just be on every single time frame. And if you've been on my channel for quite some time, you know that I only focus on 3 time frames. That is my rule. That is my suggestion to new traders, to only focus on 3 time frames, right? So the main time frames I focus on is the daily, the 4-hour, and the 2-hour. Okay, the 2-hour, as a lot of you will know, is where what I use to for entries, right? That's what I use the 2-hour for. No more, no less. I don't mark levels on the 2-hour. I only use the 2-hour time frame for my entries when it comes to trading. When it comes to the 4-hour, the 4-hour is kind of complicated, right? Because I mark levels as we go. All right, and I'm gonna try to explain that further along in the video, but just bear with me here. So we look at the daily time frame, and the daily time frame is where I mark most of my key levels, right? This is my bread and butter. This is where I mark the most important levels, or at least the most important levels to me, and then that's when I go about my trading day, all right, or trading week, whatever. Okay, so that is what I do. I only look at 3 time frames. That is my rule when it comes to trading. Okay, I don't care about the 1 hour. I don't care what's happening on the 30-minute. I promise you, I never look at lower time frames below 2-hour time frame. Okay, you would never see me on a 15-minute time frame talking about a Head and Shoulders or whatever. Okay, you would never see me on a 5-minute time frame. You would definitely never in history see me on a 1-minute time frame. I think they're absolutely useless when it comes to marking levels. Okay, I didn't say they were useless when it comes to trading. I'm saying they are useless when it comes to marking levels. The higher the time frame, the stronger the level. The higher the time frame, the more important the level is. The lower the time frame, the weaker the level is. Okay, the lower the time frame, the least important that level is. Okay, so I want to make that clear. So you should not be on a 15-minute marking 20 different key levels. Okay, ultimately, do what you want, do what works for you. If it's profitable, by all means, continue to do it. And so when we're looking at the SPY, right, so 490 is a key level here. As long as the SPY stays below 497.5, you are pretty bearish, if you're not already bearish as it is, right? But our key level here, our dark pool level, is 497.5 when it comes to the SPY. And so a lot of times you guys will hear me say things like, if you get below this level, you open up the floodgates towards this level, right? And you're probably wondering, well, what do I mean by that, right? Because I would say, if you get below 490 on the SPY, you open up the floodgates all the way to 460. Well, that's the most important level beyond or below 490, right? And it doesn't mean we have to head there. It just means that the gates are open, or there's potential for us to head towards the 460s when it comes to the SPY. And again, it doesn't mean we have to go there, right? And this is how you build confidence when it comes to trading. So, for example, we look at the 2-hour time frame, right? As you guys can see, we already went below the 490, this 490 level, right? But I wouldn't take this trade. Why wouldn't I take this trade? Because you gapped down. You don't chase gaps, okay? You don't chase, you're chasing a falling knife. Anytime you're chasing a gap to the upside or to the downside, you're chasing a falling knife, and then you're chasing the upside, or you're FOMOing in when it comes to upside. So I would never trade a gap below a key level, right? I will wait for a retest if it happens, but if it doesn't happen, then I just miss out on that trade, right? So a lot of times you guys will hear me talk about a break and retest, right? So for example, I want to see a break on the 2-hour and then a retest on the 2-hour, and then I will enter a trade on the next candle down. Okay, and sometimes I may just wait for the break, depending on how confident I am in the trade. But ultimately, that's what I look for when it comes to key levels. Why the 2-hour? Because the 2-hour helps with confidence, right? Because it's a major time frame. It's a pretty high time frame, and I imagine if the 2-hour is breaking a key level, it's going to be pretty hard to go back to your stop loss or hit your stop loss from here, right? So let's say I set a stop loss for 497.5. Well, if the 2-hour breaks below 490, the odds of that happening is very low. Okay, very, very low if we break and hold below 490 on the SPY, right? Now, when it comes to a move all the way down to 466. So I want to make this clear. You're not expecting that move. You shouldn't expect that move, right? It's just more so of a confidence builder, right? Because you know you have plenty of space to the downside, right? So you're not panicking on 15 different levels within this area. You're more so focused on the idea that SPY can hit this low, but am I going to hold puts this low? Absolutely not. I'm going to take profit at whatever rule I set, whether it's 20%, 40%, so on and so forth, right? So let's say SPY does break below 490 here, right? And I enter a trade at 489, right? Well, I'm going to probably take profit a lot sooner than 466. Otherwise, I'm just being greedy, right? And greed is like the number one reason traders blow their account. So this is where the 4-hour time frame comes in, right? So if we zoom out, when I'm in a trade, okay, again, when I'm in a trade, this is where I start looking at the 4-hour, and then I start marking key levels on the 4-hour. I start telling myself, okay, how far can my trade go for the short term, right? I know for the long term that it's possible for my trade to head to 466 as long as the SPY stays below 490. But for the short term, short term is all about perspective because we are looking at the 4-hour, right? But for the short to intermediate term, how low can my trade go? Well, I know if I'm looking at the 4-hour, I know that we can head as low as about 482, 483 if we manage to hold below the SPY. So let's zoom in here and see what level I marked here, right? So we see here, right, that we had a lot of consolidation here. We consolidated here. We bounced towards the upside. So we know that this is a very key level on the 4-hour time frame. We also know that we're pretty liquid all the way down to this level. So the moment we break below the 490 level, I should say, right? The moment we break and hold below 490, we know that there's a good chance that we can see some downside here all the way to 482, right? Very possible, right? Very much possible. So that's another thing. When you're using higher time frames, a lot of you ask me like, how am I so confident with my trades? How am I confident in my YouTube videos? It's because I'm using higher time frames, right? When you're using 15-minute time frames, you restrict yourself to 15 minutes, right? You restrict yourself to 15 minutes and a lot shorter time frames, right? You're really restricting yourself. Especially if you're looking like the 5-minute time frame, I can't even stand looking at this. This hurts my eyes, right? But when you're looking at time frames like the 5 minutes, you're restricting yourself mentally because you're like, oh man, I gotta hurry up. I gotta hurry up and get out this trade, or I gotta get in this trade. You really restrict yourself. Whereas the 2-hour time frame, you could take your time. You can go outside and play. You can touch some grass. You can play Valorant. You can do, you can do a lot of things because you know that you have a lot of time on whatever play you enter when it comes to the SPY, right? Because you're looking at the 2-hour, 4-hour, and daily. So it helps build confidence to higher, at least for me. Okay, I'm just going to speak for me. It helps build confidence for me when I'm trading off higher time frames because I'm not restricting myself to lower time frames. I'm not restricting myself to think that I have little time, less time than I have. I'm not restricting myself when it comes to levels and hoping that a level holds because I know on lower time frames levels are get less and less relevant, right? I know that I can trust these levels on the higher time frames more so than the smaller time frames, right? So again, when we go back to the 4-hour time frame, well, I know that there is a good chance that we're going to head towards 483, between 483 485 psych level, as long as the SPY stays below 490, right? And so I will be looking to take profit within this range between 485, which is our psych level once again, and 483, 482. Now, let's say we go back to the 2-hour, right? And keep in mind, I'm not even looking at the daily time frame anymore. I already used the daily time frame for what I needed it for. I marked my levels. I'm only focused on the 4-hour and 2-hour time frame. Make it simple, okay? It's just make it as simple as possible for you. I'm only looking at 2 time frames at this point now. I'm not focused on the daily anymore. I'm not looking at the weekly anymore, right? I'm not looking at the smaller time frames trying to, pump myself up, right? I'm trusting the 2-hour and 4-hour time frame because I know how powerful they are. I know how strong these levels are. But let's say we go to the 2-hour time frame, right? We're already on the 2-hour time frame. But let's say we break below this key level here at around 483, 482, more or less. Well, then again, I'm looking at another break and retest, right? I'm looking at a break and retest, and then I will go back to the 4-hour and look for my next key level. Okay, my next key level prior to 466, right? Pretty simple stuff. So now, if we zoom in, I see that, okay, cool. If we break below 482, I see a lot of turbulence right here. I see turbulence right here. I see a lot of rejection in this area right here. Something is going on here, right? So now I'm going to mark that as a key level. And as you guys can see, rejection, 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 boom. I mean, it's easy work. Like I tell you guys all the time, zoom out, look to your left. Simple as that. And as you guys can see, heading to this next level, you're a liquid all the way to 477. Okay, pretty simple stuff, at least in my opinion. Okay, I think this is pretty simple. Okay, and again, I'm only looking at 2 time frames right now. The daily did its job. I'm done with the daily time frame until the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, right? All I'm looking at this point is a 2-hour and 4-hour time frame. 2-hour is my entry, 4-hour I'm marking levels as I go. Simple as that, right? So let's say we break below, 477. Okay, 2-hour time frame. We go back to the 2-hour time frame, and we do it all over again. Okay, we do it all over again. This is easy money, right? And so we do it all over again, and now we're looking what for a break and retest of 477. I'm just gonna do it here, right? And all I'm doing is I'm going back to my 4-hour time frame. Once I enter a trade, right? Let's say I enter a trade, I enter puts on the SPY here. All I'm doing is going to the 4-hour time frame, and I'm looking for that next key level. All right, so now I'm telling myself if SPY breaks below 477, what am I looking for next? I'm looking for the next area of turbulence. Okay, 472 could be our level here. If I look to the left right here, I see there's a little turbulence here, right? And you're never going to perfect your levels, okay? I want to make that clear, unless you're looking at dark pool. But as you guys can see, we rejected here, we consolidated here a little bit, we consolidated here a little bit, we bounced here. So I know that 472, 473 is our next key level. Mind you, we're going all the way down to 467, okay? 466, 467, okay? So pretty simple stuff, I would think. Okay, I would assume that it's pretty simple stuff. So again, just to add everything up, right? 2-hour I'm using for my entries. 4-hour I'm marking my levels as I go. Daily I'm marking the most important levels on my charts. Okay, why? Because daily has the strongest levels. Okay, and it's really that simple, guys. It's nothing complicated about it, right? Nothing complicated at all. Now, when it comes to the daily time frame, this is another way you can build confidence. Like I said before, the higher the level, the stronger, the higher the time frame, the stronger the level. So if I know the 2-hour is breaking below 490, I know that there's a good chance we're going to stay below 490 for quite some time. Why? Because it is a daily level, okay? Pretty hard to break above or below a daily level. Okay, we're gonna act like this didn't happen, but regardless, pretty hard, right? That's what you want to tell yourself. It's the daily time frame, right? It's the daily time frame. What are the odds of that level being broken on the daily time frame and actually holding? I would say pretty low. Can it happen? Absolutely. I mean, you see it right here, right? But again, I would assume this is a fluke. I would say this is a fluke because you gap down, right? You never want to chase gaps, whether it's to the upside, to the downside. You don't chase gaps. Okay, so again, break, retest, and then you just go to your 4-hour time frame. You start marking levels from there. Okay, once you enter a trade. Okay, once you enter a trade, you don't want to you don't want to at least for me, I don't want to overstimulate myself by having a bunch of levels up. Right, I do it as I go. Okay, I just do it as I go. Another way you can mark levels, guys, is using a broker. Sorry, that was my phone if you heard that. Using a broker. So for example, if you want to use quant data, you want to mark the dark pool levels here. So here, below 496.5, it's a lot of downside, right? You're pretty liquid to the downside, so we can be heading towards about 486.2 as long as we stay below 496.5. So again, you're not going to perfect your levels, okay? because you don't know what institutions are doing when it comes to these levels, right? But 504.42, that was a key level. And you can mark these levels on your charts as well. I encourage the Discord members all the time to mark these levels on their charts. I show them the dark pool levels on the SPY and, various stocks sometimes, and I let them know to mark them on their charts, right? And then even when we're in a trade as well, so for example, we were in IWM puts today, right? We got into 171 puts on IWM. I let them know that, hey, these are the dark pool levels for IWM. If you're in the trade with me, you probably want to mark these levels, okay? And one thing we noticed when we were in the trade of IWM, because we got it at around 183, we knew that 179 was a major wall. You get below 179, you start to tank towards the downside. And that's exactly what happened when you're talking about the IWM, right? So hopefully this helps, okay? Hopefully this helps. Make trading as easy as possible for you, because you only know you. I don't, if you have anxiety, if you panic, if you have bipolar disorder or whatever the case may be, if you're disciplined, if you're a laid back, chill guy. I don't know, right? Only you know you. So you have to make trading as simple as possible for you. I do not look at every single thing when it comes to trading. A lot of you are like, well, fundamentally, you should focus on this and that. You should focus on this and you should look at the news and blah, blah, blah. That's overstimulating, right? And yes, I do look at certain news events, but I'm not looking at every single news catalyst. That's insane. And a lot of traders do that, right? I'm also not looking at every single time frame. That's insane, okay? I saw I think someone in my Discord was like, I look at this time frame, that time frame, this time frame, and I'm like, brother, you're going to blow up your brain, okay? You're going to lose your mind. You're going to start bleeding from the ears if you keep doing this, all right? I don't think it's healthy to look at multiple time frames. I think it just creates frustration. I think it creates frustration. I think you're just going to overstimulate yourself. You're going to cause yourself to overthink a lot, and you're going to miss out on a lot of good trading opportunities because you may have the perfect setup, right? You may see the perfect setup on the SPY, right? But you start talking yourself out of it, right? So let's say you use my strategy, right? And this is not 100% my strategy. It's way more to my strategy, but this is just the fundamentals of my strategy. But let's say you use my strategy and you have the perfect setup. You're like, oh man, we're below 490 on the SPY. We're doing this on the daily time frame. We're doing that. There's tariff news, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, let me look at the 30-minute just to make sure. And you're like, oh man, the 30-minute is here, and there's bullish volume down here, blah blah blah. Oh, let me look at the 15-minute now. Oh man, the 15-minute doesn't look good either. Man, there's a inverse head and shoulders pattern on the 15-minute, and then you're like, oh, let me look at the 45-minute. Who the hell looks at the 40? But you look at the 45-minute, you start talking yourself out of these trades, and you had the perfect setup. You had plenty of confirmation to enter puts on the SPY, but you went to lower time frames. You went to 5 other time frames, and you talked yourself out of it, right? So trading is all about, one, not being greedy. That's like the main thing a lot of traders have. But two, just making it as simple as possible for you as a person. Only you know you, okay? Only you understand how you think. Only you understand how you can trade. If you see red on a trade, you're freaking out, okay? So you probably should adjust your strategy to the point where you don't freak out, okay? That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments below. I will make an educational section in the Discord to post these videos, because I post these videos all the time, but they get lost in the archives. So yeah, let me know if you guys want me to go over other things in regards to trading or, charts, whatever the case may be, specific stocks, things like that. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, notification, all that fun stuff. Subscribe, please. And if you didn't enjoy this video, then I don't know. Get lost, I guess. Until the next video, traders. Have a good one.